Welcome to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast. We are recording an extra special Lakeland type of conversation with the one and the only Marco Consani. Welcome to Young Hearts Run Free, Marco. Sorry, welcome back to Young Hearts Run Free, Marco. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I spoke so much last time that you need to bring me back because I only got so far through all my races, didn't I? I
Well,
talked gibberish for far too long.
we did leave that door open. We did leave that
We
door
did.
open. But tonight we're here to speak about the Lakeland Running Festival. I'm going to use as the term. Some people out there listening in might go, Marco Consani. So, for those who might not be familiar with your quite incredible running career, I'm going to hand over to you to briefly introduce yourself, Marco, and tell us a bit about how you got into this thing called ultra running.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I think nowadays I'm just known as Debbie's husband. I think that's how I go around. Everyone comes up to me at races. Oh, you're Debbie's husband. No one remembers because my ultra career finished before most people were out of school that run ultras nowadays, I think. But way back then, when I was doing ultras, I ran for Scotland in 100k, and I did 24-hour running with the GB squad, which was brilliant fun, running around in circles. But apart from that, I did also West Highland Way, Lakeland, Tooting 24, Glasgow, Edinburgh, which I still actually have. I have that course record still, which was nice, and no one will beat it because they made it longer. So you'd need to run really fast because that was my fastest race, I think. Barcelona, which unfortunately I think the record I had for that one got beaten last year. Well done. Not, I'm not. Not feeling bad about that at all. Although now I don't. The week before Christmas, I don't need to watch that race anymore. Also done some 12 hours. Winter 100 won that one as well, while it was still called the Winter 100, but was also held in autumn, now called the Autumn 100. I got into ultra running. Well, originally I got into running because my brother said he was running, and I thought, well, if he does it, then I can do it. So started running. Then met Debbie, who was at that time doing marathons, but I was doing much better running at 10Ks and half marathons, which I was enjoying. And she was like, you should do a marathon. And I was like, all loved up, thinking I need to impress her. So I went and did a marathon. And then she was like, actually, what about this Devil of the Highlands thing? And I thought, I've done the West Highland Way, I can do that. So we did that, and I ran it like a marathon. So I did like 18 miles really fast, and then, had a great, many more miles was that? 20, 30 miles where I walked half of it. So that was my introduction to that. And then she went, oh, you can run the whole West Highland Way. And that took me 5 years to get right, but I did eventually get it right. And then after that, I kind of was looking for something new that was a trail run. And that's where Lakeland came in, because finally in 2013, I got West Highland Way right. I got just over 16 hours. I was second in that. And I wanted to do something different, and that was Lakeland. I think Debbie had done it recently before that. She'd done it a year before me, and it looked like a good race when I'd seen press and stuff on it. I thought, I can do that. I'll go and do it without really knowing that much about it, about the actual race. So yeah,
Wow.
that was my lead up to Lakeland.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And
or just listen to the old podcast that you'd done before, because I think that was as far as we got. I don't know.
we'll refer people back to that for but right off the bat, this isn't even the question set that I sent you, Marco. West Highland Way race or Lakeland? What did you? Is it fair to do a comparison with them? Could you do that?
They're different types of races. I think I always felt Lakeland is a far bigger race, obviously, and West Highland Way is smaller. West Highland Way to me always felt more old school. You had the motorized support. and there was a more limited amount of people, probably due to how many people you can get on the West Ham Way and things like that. It's and that felt more old school. That felt like I was doing an ultra from the 80s or the 90s or something like that. And that's what made the West Ham Way fun. I enjoyed that of it. When I look at Lakeland, it feels more like you're away to UTMB, or at that time, it's more of a kind of with the checkpoints. They're big, people are shouting, there's cowbells and all that. I think they're like two different races in my head. And I think they still are that way. And it just felt that you're going from 100-mile run where literally you can see your support every 7 miles, something like that, to I've got no support. I've got a drop bag at halfway stage, but everything else I need to deal with myself. So, I can't be getting to checkpoint 3 and going, none of my food's working. Right, support team, go and get me a bag of chips and a pork pie and an ice cream. That'll do me for the next section. I need to make those decisions, so you're in charge of the whole thing yourself. I think that's what made the Lakeland certainly different, but kind of enticed me to do it, to see if I could actually do an ultra myself with no support, really. Well, you've got support, obviously, you've got checkpoints, but the checkpoint guys do a brilliant job, but I can't go and get them to go and get me ice cream at Kinlocheven or whatever I used to do the West Ham Way.
But it's more of a challenge, maybe. More of a challenge to do something like that unsupported.
Yeah. And there's the whole navigation thing. And I don't know how it is nowadays, but when I did it, you didn't have a GPS watch. Well, you had a GPS watch, but if I had the route on the GPS, but it would have run out of batteries halfway around, you didn't have your Fenix 6, which would have the battery life. You could go and do it in 24, 30 hours or whatever. You had to kind of watch your battery life in your watch. Actually, just doing the GPS, I think I was always getting 21 hours of just recording my pace and everything. So never mind doing a route and things like that. So I had to go out and learn it. And originally, I'm from a hill walking background. I used to use the map, and that is the worst. You can't run and look at a map. Well, I can't run and look at a map, so I had to learn how to use the route book. The route book is full of English terms for burn and all these things. So I had to learn English rather than Scottish way of doing routes and things like that. So it was that. But because I recce'd the course a few times, not the whole course a few times, but at least every section at least once, and took pictures of it, slept. At night time I would read. I had a notepad with pictures of the route and things of different turns, and I would look at it at night, and then I would actually dream of the route at night. I think you have to do a lot more preparation like that. West Highland Way, it is a good idea to learn the route and go and do it, but you could come all the way from the US, which people did, get dropped off at Mulgai at 1 o'clock and run it, and probably not get lost. It's pretty easy to follow it. And I think that's another thing about Lakeland that was good, because you had to have people that were committed to the course, had to do it. So you had to have people that had at least looked at the course or had gone round the course. So there was no way you were going to get Killian coming in and coming along to the course and doing it, because you'd have to go and wreck it. He couldn't go and just do it, no matter how good he is. And so that was also something that made me want to do it, was you couldn't just say, I'm going to rock up at that and I'm going to do well at it. You had to go there and spend time. You had to spend months before. So I started maybe November going on the organised recce's, learning the course. I remember the first time I did the recce, I think I followed Robbie Britton and someone else around it. Didn't really learn it, and went, right, can't do that next time. I need to actually go and do it and read it and get used to how the route planner works, how it all pieced together. And at that time, the route map thing was about this size. It was a big thing. I photocopied it all, made it dead small, laminated it, stuck it to the front of my pack so that I could easily just look at it. And actually, I managed to recce it so well that I did have a couple of places that in the first time I did it that I went a bit wrong. And at the beginning, I was a bit not so sure myself as well. So I kind of stuck to people. But by halfway, I was kind of like, you actually know this course, you're okay. And managed to kind of do it, without really looking at it too much. Although you might correct me because you read my blog and I haven't read it in 10 years, so I may have gone. But my me thinking back, and everything looks better when you think back. I didn't get lost that much, I don't think. I remember getting lost once in the night and going way around a hill and going round and round the circles for a bit, and then figuring it out that I was way too high. But apart from that, I can't remember too many times.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, and I think you've mentioned a couple of things there. 2014, we'll just let the cat out of the bag. Marco finished first. That year was the Lakeland 100 champion that year in a time of 21 hours, 14 minutes and 52 seconds. Sub 21:15 we call it around about here. So well done, well done, Marco. There is no just, my man. There is no just. But you've already mentioned there about watches. Now, we're only talking a decade, how much the technology's changed, for watches. And then you think about things like, pardon me, the nutrition has changed in the last decade. The shoes have definitely changed in the last decade. The packs have changed. The head torches. That's how fast this sport has evolved, And I'm just thinking this as you were talking about navigation. The West Highland Way, you can link up the posts. And because when you come out of one section, like say Rower Denon, you come out of that section, there's a post at the end, and you go on to the next bit that's going to take you up to the low road or the high road. There's a post, so you join the posts up. But in actual fact, the Lakeland 50, Lakeland 100, it isn't an actual way, is it? You've done the spine as well, which is the Pennine Way, which sometimes I think lacks in markers also. But the Lakeland course isn't a way, so that we call it a foldy now, don't they? The wee roadie book.
Yeah.
That will see you all right, but you've got to read it. And you cannot beat getting a foot on the route. It's invaluable if you've done that. So, yeah. So, but no, you did mention about navigation in your blog. I'm not saying you got horribly lost, but there was a time where you had to check some things. Don't be a sheep is the key. Do not be a sheep and follow that person in front of you that you think they know where they're going. Don't do that.
No, team up with someone maybe, but yeah, don't just follow blindly.
No, because then your watch starts beeping and you go, "What's that saying?" And before
Not mine. Mine only beeped to tell me it was out of battery. I was old school.
You mentioned in your introduction, Marco, about running for your country and doing 24-hour championships. Are there transferable skills from that, running round and round in circles, to running through the hills, through the mountains?
Yeah, it makes running through the mountains feel so much better. You try running around a racetrack 650 times, anything's better than that. But it is funny, and I don't know whether this is a question for later on or something, but when you think of Lakeland, you think of hills. Yeah. And how you prepare for those hills and stuff like that. And I went from hill walking to ultra running, so I already had done a lot of hill walking, but it was walking, it's not running. And I found in the 3 times I did Lakeland, and we kind of touched on this in our pre-bit, was running flat was better preparation for me for Lakeland than running on the hills. And I know you might think, how the hell could that be? I had my best for me personally, it was my first and my third one was my best races. And those 2 times I ran a lot of miles on the canal, which is completely different from going in the lakes. Now, don't get me wrong, I reckoned that whole course, so I did a lot of running on there. But if you ask me, what are you doing this Friday night or Saturday morning? I was running on the canal, and I was running 30 miles of canal running, flat canal running. And that is part of because I would have maybe a 12-hour or 24-hour as well to train for, as well as Lakeland.
Okay.
So after the first year I did it, I thought, right, I can really, that was a year I didn't train specifically for Lakeland. Now, I did train for it because, you have to wreck the course, but I was doing a lot of flat running. So the second year I went into, I'm going to learn how to run up hills. I'm going to run up the hills. I'm going to feel amazing, and then the flats will feel absolutely fantastic. They didn't. I ran up the hills, that was great, and got to the flats and I was exhausted. And you forget how much is flat on the Lakeland as well. When I say flat, you've got from where is it, Keswick all the way to Ducray and that, which is pretty flat, but you're still going up, was it 900 meters up and down? But it's much more runnable. You've got the coach road, runnable. You've got the road, actual road from Keswick to Braithwaite. Yeah.
That is
there.
that.
Yeah. So it's very runnable. So you do need to be able to run. And if someone asked me for, how can I do a good Lakeland? Me personally, what worked for me was to say, actually, do the hilly parts well within yourself. Learn, how to walk efficiently, walk while eating. But you need to get to the flat sections and be able to run. You can't do all these hilly bits and completely gub yourself, knacker yourself, doing it and think, wow, I'm doing amazing here. And then the whole entire field overtakes you in the flat bit, and I was getting to flat bit. And at that time we were, running a lot of my easy miles between 7:30 mile pace, but you were getting to that flat bit. And I was able to run after the hills, maybe at 8:30, but it felt very, very easy. And I was, there's Debbie's phoning me.
Okay.
Like she'll be checking that I'm not saying bad things about her. Anyway, so there, take that, Debbie, when you're listening to the podcast. Anyway, so what I did find, and it was funny, I think Richie Cunningham, someone that had won the West Ham Way and who I looked up to a lot of the time, and I did ask for a lot of advice during the West Ham Way. It's always very helpful. And I did ask him about 24-hour running, and I did ask him about Lakeland because he'd done it before as well. And he said, just kind of, make sure during the hill sections you're not over, committing yourself, so that when you do get to that flat section, you can run, and you will be amazed how many people you catch up. And that's what happened on the year I won it. We were originally in a bunch of 3 people coming out of Seathwaite, the first checkpoint, and we got to Wasdale, and I need to tell you that story. Remind me to tell you the story the first time. But anyway, the Wasdale, the guy in front ran off, ran up the hill pretty quick. I never saw him. I could see the torch in the distance for ages. And then I got to the coach road, and he probably couldn't run that much more. He probably ran more, but he'd slowed right down because he'd used a lot of energy in the hills, and it was just like out for a training run sort of thing. It was very comfortable for me just to run, because I was so used to doing back-to-back long runs on flat, and it prepared me for that. And then we were talking earlier about why was my time when I finished actually slower than one of the times I came second, and that's probably because I wasn't so good with the hills later on in the event, but the flat bits I could still run. I still had something in there to run. So it was that's what I kind of. It's a little bit different from what a lot of people do training for the Lakeland, and it's maybe too late for people to do that now. It's only 2 weeks away, but that's what I always found helped me, learning the course, but doing a lot of flat miles, and then once a month or whatever, twice a month, getting on the hills, and you can't not do hills. I used to work in Edinburgh, and we would go and do a Thursday on Arthur's Seat, so I was still doing hills, but I wasn't doing mega miles in hills. I was doing my mega miles on the canal.
Yeah, because folk talk about make sure you've got your hill legs on. So you do have to put effort in on the course throughout the course of the year. But as you're saying, when you're training for a 12 or a 24 or 100 as well, you've got to get the volume of miles in too, and that suited you. Well, obviously it suited you because you had some of the best run of your life in that period. 2014 was it 2014 you set the course record at Glasgow to Edinburgh? Is that the one 6:19?
6:19 it was, yeah. But I don't know if it was 2014. Was it 2014?
It was, aye.
Yeah.
April 2014.
So I think I hit a sweet spot. So I started ultra running was 2007, and it took me I think we covered this before, where I was running and feeling like shit afterwards, and I was doing too much running, I was doing the races, I was doing the training too fast, doing the races too fast at the beginning, and totally hanging on by a thread for the second half of races, then spending 6 months recovering, and it was just a nightmare. And it was probably 2013, end of 2012, where I started to get some races where I was maybe getting a podium, but then recovering much quicker, and then bringing that consistency onto the next race, because it's no use doing one race and giving it everything and then spending 6 months recovering or sitting in your arse, drinking, and then having to build up to your next race. You need to take that race, have a week or two recovery, but then get on to the next, get that consistency to keep going. And it's that consistency where I managed to get it, and that I then had 2013, 2014, even 2015 and 2016, I started to get injuries and stuff, but that was my kind of sweet spot, which I look back at and go, wish I could still do that,
Aye, but you certainly made the most of that time, because early April, you set that course record in Glasgow to Edinburgh, as you say, will never ever be taken away from you. That's yours forever.
They happily extended the course. Yeah.
Yeah. End of April, you
I
finished
then
first.
4 weeks later did a 12-hour,
12-hour track race, which again you won in first place.
I got the record as well.
Yes,
but
there
it
we
got
go.
It got broken, yeah.
25th to 27th of July was the Lakeland 100, where you finished first in Lakeland 100. And then you also, in the 18th and 19th of October, you finished first in the winter 100-mile race as well. So 2014 was a phenomenal year, absolutely brilliant year.
And it's weird, and it's not. I never feel. I try not to be big-headed, but confidence breeds confidence, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I because I was having, it was like first, second, first, races like that, you actually relaxed in races and it helped you. But I never went to a race, like the preparation I did for Lakeland, you'll not believe. Like, I actually take the entry list for Lakeland and went through every single person in that race in the DUV website and marked what races they'd done.
Wow.
Now, don't get me wrong, like, I used to commute to Edinburgh, so I had a lot of spare time in my hands. So I used to sit in Edinburgh on my iPad and a notepad, and I've still got my working out for it, and I had everybody's DUV link, and I would click on it, go through it, and I had a list of 10 runners that I thought were potential winners for Lakeland. And I went in and looked at it's quite quick to go through the list and get it down to 10 people, because you just look and see if they've done Lakeland before. They've done Lakeland before, look at their time. Oh, they're not under, maybe, I don't know, I was maybe looking at 23 hours or something. Anyone over that, I was like, right, okay, I don't need to worry. And you would go through that list, and I had these potential people that I thought I might be battling. And don't get me wrong, race can go wrong, races always go wrong, but they were the ones on a perfect day if I was competing against, and I listed them, and then I would look to see how they raced. So, fast start, slow start, fast start, slow finish, and kind of work out what they were strong at. Which, on that year that it was funny, because in the year I won it, I was running with 3 people, and I remember, I think one of your questions is, what do you talk to people in your race? And I tend not to talk to many people, because a lot of the races you spend by yourself. But in that Lakeland, there was 3 of us at the beginning, and we spent maybe 30 miles together, or, well, 2. Where did we split up? Wasdale. Was Wasdale about 25 miles or 20 miles? Yeah. So we spent the first 20 miles together, and then we all kind of split up. But during that time, you start to talk. You're like, oh, what's your name? What's your name? And the guy said his name, and I was like, I know exactly what your times are. The other guy, I didn't. I was like, you weren't in my 10. So I just kind of thought, you'll just hang on. We'll maybe, I don't. Guy could have a really good day. you then work that out later. But the other guy, I knew him, and I was like, you've done the Highland Fling, and I know you've done it in 8 hours 15 or 8 hours 19. And I thought, right, I'm 7:45 or something at that time. So, okay, I'm faster than you on that particular type of terrain, but that's maybe different for Highland Fling and stuff like that. So we start talking away, and I said, oh, I don't like mountains. I don't like running up mountains. Like, kind of thinking if I say that to him, he might run off in the mountains, like we were saying earlier, and use a bit too much energy. And I was like, because I know a fling type race, I'm faster than you at. And a fling is flat to me. It's hilly, but it's a flat race compared to Lakeland. So I know I've got all my flat running in the bag, but my mountain running isn't so good, but I can walk very fast up a mountain. So I've always practiced walking and eating at the same time. So you kind of you use that sort of thing, and you're talking, but with all those race wins and stuff coming up, you kind of got confidence to do that and sell it the wrong way. And he was like, he didn't know me, which was great, even better, because he's like, oh, Mark, well, have you done any races recently? And I'm like, oh, brilliant, you know. So yeah, because I'd said I'm no good at the mountains, when we got to Wasdale, he went straight up the mountain. I mean, like literally ran up it, and I just went into my walking pace, fast walking, dropped the other guy, and then just followed this guy's torch all the way to the coach road, and then just got my flat running shoes on and yeah, overtook him. And I always remember when I overtook him, I hope he's not listening, but he said to me, oh, I've been waiting up on you because we could run together. And I'm like, nah.
Not today.
No, not today. I was away. So
brilliant. Yeah. We should also say that DUV site, we'll put the link in the show notes, because it's just a compendium of information. And if you like if people like the data, that's where to go for that.
I honestly, yeah, during that kind of period, see, I would never do it now, because now if I'm racing, I don't feel competitive. I feel like the competition is me against the race now. So it's a different mindset. And so I'm going there for my own personal, to enjoy it, to see it. That's why I'm doing this. I'm signed up for the summer spine next year, trying to get into the winter spine, but I'm like 108th in the waiting list. If anyone can get me in, please. But it's more of a personal challenge now, so there's no reason to look through all these. But I had a different mindset then. My mindset wasn't to go and enjoy myself in an ultra. It was to compete, and I really enjoyed. We were all friends. I competed against friends. We'd all shake hands, but during a race, we would play games against each other, and you would compete. You know, like daft things like, you're running in the dark, you've got a head torch on, you want to look back to see who's behind you. So I'd always make sure the head torch always pointed forward and look back, because if they see your head torch coming around, it gives them more energy to, because they're like, oh, he's scared that I'm looking back. But if you never look back, there's just, if the person next to you put headphones on, I was like, they're done. They're putting headphones on because they're feeling the pace. So I'd push the pace a bit to kill them, not to kill them literally, but to get rid of them. Used to do. I remember one time in the West Ham, I've probably talked about this before, but I was dressed all in white, overtook someone, and then got a change into all black, so he wouldn't see me, so he wouldn't know to latch on the moor, because I was like, right, he won't then be able to say, there's Marco in front of me, because he's all in white. There's some just guy in black, must be someone else running or walking. So you would do. It was good, and I enjoyed. That was the fun part of ultra running for me. I enjoyed that competitiveness. Yeah, the end of all those races, we would go for a beer together. It was fun.
Yeah,
and they knew they would do the same shit to me as well.
And I think that's the beauty of sportsmanship, isn't it? And it's that competitiveness, and you need that to push on and to break course records and to do what you're doing as well. So, there will be people listening to this who are not at that sharp end, and they're going out there for maybe the first time to find out what it's all about. And right now, they're kind of shitting themselves, when they're going out there. So, but it's okay. Keep moving forward. That's the key. Keep moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember Scott Bradley. He had won the West Highland Way, and all these people helped me. I would talk to them, and I was nowhere near competing with them, and nowhere near their, what they were running at. And they would share bits of information with me. And I always remember Scott Bradley, and it's something I still use today, that said, if you're not enjoying it, you're running too fast. And if I was doing Lakeland for the first time now, and I was just doing it for myself, which I did try and do and ended up DNF one time, I would always say, if you're not enjoying it, you're just doing it too fast. Take a step back, walk, take your time, look around, and the energy will come back. You just... That's, and it's I'm a different place myself now. I'm actually lucky to finish an ultra nowadays, never mind to compete. I just try and actually finish the bloody things now. I don't have the competitive spirit thing anymore. I just want
a different place in your life, aren't you?
Yes.
In your running journey, you're a different place. So
I run for bacon rolls. That's what it is. I meet my pals on a Saturday, and I just go, I just want to be able to stay with them and be able to have a conversation and have a bacon roll and a coffee at the end. It is a different journey. And it's funny because when you asked me to come on here, it brings a lot of the memories back of doing Lakeland and of doing these events and competing. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that again. But it takes a lot of training to get to that, and it's a lot of hours. I was at the time, probably me and Debbie were both training for ultras. We were both working full time, and we had Cairn, who is at that time would have been about 5 or 6, and we were doing 15-hour training blocks a week. It was a lot of juggling about, but we made it work, by doing things like, running a Friday night instead of a Saturday or Sunday, running when, and you can make it work. But now it's hard to get that, to say, oh, I'm going to run 15 hours a week. Now I'm like, just want to run 40 miles a week or something and just enjoy it. And it's a different place, but it's still as good of a place as then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100% it does. We should also mention that Debbie won the Lakeland 100 female race in 2014.
Yes.
In a time of 25 hours, 28 minutes. So quite maybe to buy a new cabinet after that weekend because of the trophies. So well done to Debbie.
It was, yes, it was to do that was really good, because it was the first time I'd done Lakeland. And so I was really pleased to do that. But to both of us win the same year, I think it's been done again, hasn't it? Has it been done again in Lakeland? No, Lakeland 50. It was done in Lakeland 50.
Done in the 50, yeah.
It was done in Lakeland 50, and I don't think it's been done in Lakeland 100. But both to win it the same year, we were doing something right. I don't know what it was.
What you'd explained about the juggling of a busy family life and working life, and the training. Someone was working right in there, and it maybe came to fruition that day. If you don't mind, I'll post the link to your blog, because there's some brilliant pictures from the finish as well of you and Debbie as well. So I'll post the blog, get that readership up again.
Yeah, leadership. Who's blogged recently? Yeah, we used to. That was how we learned information. There was no podcasts when I started. Everyone blogged, so it was things like John Kyneson's blog that I used to follow for the West Highland Way. Actually, I think I followed it for Lakeland. He had videos of the course on Lakeland. But when I was recceing it, I took pictures of different turns. I think we already spoke about it, and I put it in a notepad in Notes, Apple Notes, and then I would go to bed at night and go, right, what section? And I would look at it with the different turns. And you know yourself, I'm taking these pictures in the middle of winter. And then one thing I did all 3 years I did, or 4 years, because I did one DNF later on, but the 3 years I did well at Lakeland, every single year I would do a 3-day recce. So I would run from Ambleside to Buttermere. That was my first day, so it's about 40 miles. Second day, I would run to Pulley Bridge, and the third day, I would run back to Ambleside. And the only reason I used Ambleside was I knew where the free parking was. See, cheapskate, because I knew where
Yeah.
you could free parking for 3 days, and then I would run the 3-day route. And yeah, I would go back with all these mental images of the course in the winter and be completely bloody lost because ferns had grown and everything. I was like, what the fuck has happened? Coming off High Cop, is it coming off High Cop or just after High Cop you go down and you turn right? So I had wrecked the perfect line off that hill, right? Race day came. I'm like, turned the corner and I went, what the fuck has happened here? Ferns everywhere. I'm like, right, okay, so where's the route? So I thought, route's here. Started going the route, and I was like, I don't know, you can run. That was me falling off cliffs. I couldn't see a bloody thing because of the ferns everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, falling over, rolling down the hill. Since then, I found out you actually go a little bit further, then you come back in yourself, look for the bridge. So if you done the section, you come off the hill, and I'm getting the hills mixed up. So it's
that's Fusedale. That's Fusedale, isn't it? Then you go down High Cop, you go down to Hoswater.
See, I can picture it a lot better than I can name them nowadays. I can still see me running, you know. So you've got the lake, you come down, but you go past where you actually think you should turn right.
Yeah.
You can see the small bridge. Keep going, and you come to a nice track that goes down. Took me probably 20, or you're asking, why were you bloody slower? Took me about 20, 30 minutes to get off that damn hill, right? Because I'm in the ferns. The ferns are up to here. I'm like, right? And at the same time, I'm looking up the hill because I think someone's coming, you know, because you're in first and you're like, shit, everyone's behind me. They're literally 2 seconds behind me. Yeah, now I can run down that hill in about 5 minutes because it's like around here, and you know, I can picture it, but can I name it? I don't know.
Is there? Well, you might struggle with the next question. Is there have you got a favourite part of the course, Marco?
Oh yes, yeah, Pulley Bridge to Howtown. I don't. It's like a pretty simple bit, right? There's nothing to it, but I just feel. See, when you get to Pulley Bridge and you come up the hill, it's when I used to do the race. That's when the sun was coming up. So you've got bridge. So I'd get to Dockery. It would be about not Dockery. Sorry, Dalemain. 4:30, 5 o'clock. That would be right. Say round about that time. So you've got a kind of twilighty. It's getting there. Then you've got that wee crappy bit to Pulley Bridge where you go up the hill. When I was going up, you're either first or second. So the grass is still long and it's all dewy. So you get soaked. Your legs would be soaking. Your shorts would be soaking. And then you would come up out of Pulley Bridge up the hill to the old Roman road. Turns right. You would get to there and it would just be when the nice sun was coming up and you would just feel, I've broken the back of this. And then it was a nice, easy run all the way down to Howtown before you had the climb. And I always just enjoyed that. But even though it was just always a beautiful view, I always seem to get nice weather there as well. Sun coming up and you could just look about. You could also see, because the couple of times I was there when I was competing, so the first time I'd have been first. The second time I was in first as well, and the third time I was probably about 4th or 5th at that position. But you could see back quite far, and you could see who was maybe behind you. But you could also see in front if there was people in front. So a quite relaxing part. I quite liked that part before you had the climb out of Howtown.
Yeah, and once you get, you say you come out of Pulley Bridge and you do that wee climb up to the Roman road. And it's pretty much it feels like a descent then, doesn't it?
Does. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you just need to watch. It's not technical, but there was always stones and stuff and things. And I used to run in a wee pair of thin S-Lab, like literally no sole to them. They were like literally like track racing shoes, and I found it easier because you could just tiptoe all over the place. Now I need to go in the biggest, thickest hokas because my feet are fucked. But yeah, but that time, you know, so I would always be jumping between them like, and I would just you'd feel nice and light because you've had that whole nighttime section. It's finished, it's done, and that I just felt you were on your way home then.
Yeah, I get that. Now you meant talking about Howtown. Every time I've been in Howtown, The scran has just been like biscuits, right? But it's not the most exciting. Is it? The checkpoints are fantastic.
Is it not the chia charge? That's the chia charge bit, or used to be. Is it changed? It used to be the chia charge bit.
The first year I'd done Lakeland 50, it was like a Scottish theme they had in there. And it was all shortbread and custard creams. I was like, come on, there's the sandwiches.
I eat that for my dinner. What are you doing?
Exactly. So, but was there, and you've mentioned about coming from having that motorised support and other events to come into the lakes, and you would have stuff on you, but you're then reliant on making these decisions that you spoke about at checkpoints. What sort of stuff would be your preference to fuel yourself?
Now you're talking. I'm going to go back 10 years. See, at the moment, what I do, right, we'll talk about the moment. At the moment, I go to Morrison's and I buy bags of cheap jelly babies and stuff now because I'm like, bloody beta fuel, £2 for that. I can get 400 jelly babies for that price. Actually, the beta chews I quite like now and things like that. So I have them, but I do mix more sugary sweets now, like your old style sweets, jelly babies and stuff like that. I try not to be nowadays. And the other thing is I've been doing spine race and stuff recently, which you do not have gels and stuff. I'm having bars of dairy milk, like family bars of dairy milk for at 2 a.m. and things like that. So there's none of this gel shit. When I think back to the race, I normally did races at that time with 3 plans. So I'd have a plan A, plan B, plan C. Plan A would be literally what I trained with, bars. I used to, I think the last time I did Lakeland, I had these protein type bars, protein carbohydrate bars. So there were like 20 grams of protein, carbohydrate. Brilliant. I loved them. Trained all winter with them. Ate hundreds of them. I could have advertised these things. Loved them. Thought they were great. They would absolutely perfect for my stomach. I never had a problem ever. So Lakeland comes, right, and I think I packed like between 15 or 20 of these bars in my rucksack, with 15 to 20 of them for at Dale Main to have in the second half of the race. So I think you're coming up towards Seathwaite. I'm like, time for one of my bars. It's like, oh my God, I cannot eat these fucking things. I couldn't even look at them. I honestly would stick in my mouth. I couldn't, and I was like, and I'm going, what the hell am I going to do? So plan B was always gels, but because it's the first part of the race, the gels are on the second part. So I'd maybe had 2 or 3 emergency gels. So I'm taking them. So it's not a good sign starting a race and I'm on gels within the first hour. I'm like, oh God, this is a nightmare. And at that time, I was maybe top 3 or 5 or something. And slowly as I ran on, I'm getting slower and slower because the only thing I can pick up is a handful of jelly babies or something at the checkpoints. And what? So you've got the check me, or you've got Braithwaite. Is it Braithwaite? What's the one where you come out of Keswick and it goes out the wee daft loop? What's that one there?
You're going from Buttermere to Braithwaite.
Yeah.
Then, you know?
So, yeah. No, Buttermere is the first one. See, I need to, where's my wee map? I had the map up. Before Threkheld, when you go up the wee loop.
You're going on to Dockery?
Nah, before Dockery. So when you're on the coach road.
Oh, yeah, there's that one that's in the middle of nowhere. What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it will come to me. Everybody that's listening in is shouting it out.
They're all shouting it. I've got it. Wait a minute. I've got it somewhere listed. Files, because I've got my splits.
We're doing research.
This is good. This is good. So Blencathra.
I've got my splits. Yeah.
I get to. I'm literally going backwards, and honestly, I was getting overtaken by not everybody. I think I was in 10th or 15th position by the time I got to Blencathra, and I'm like, this is not working. I either need to pull out or I need a different plan. So I'd have plan A, protein bars. I can never touch one of them in my entire life again, even though I ate thousands of them in training. Plan B was your gels and your take a handful of sweets. Plan C is CocaCola. That's it. And any race I do, my plan C is Coca-Cola, because it doesn't matter if I'm being sick, being whatever, Coke just stays. So every single checkpoint from Blencathra onwards, I would drink half a litre of Coke at the checkpoint and take 2 500ml bottles of Coke from the checkpoint. Now, when you run with Coke, no matter how flat they say it is, it's like I had breasts. I was running with breasts like this, right? And so, but it would start to squirt out. So I had milky breasts, like, and I was so sticky that whole race. At the end of that race, I drank 14 litres of fucking Coke. I couldn't sleep for about 3 days. I was shaking at night. I was like, so that was good fun. But I came from 10th, 15th to second in that race, and it's probably one of the races I look back, even though it wasn't a win, it wasn't a win or anything. I actually felt really guilty overtaking second. He had been second since the beginning of the race, and I overtook him at the end, and I felt amazing because I was so high in Coke and gels, and he looked in pain, and I actually apologised. I said, I'm really sorry, but inside I was like, God, filter. But I was like, I'm so sorry. And the worst thing was, I came down into Coniston, and his family were all waiting for him, and they're like, oh, who are you? And I'm like, he's just behind. So sorry. But I was like, I felt amazing. I was really happy with that one because it'd been such a bad race, but I managed to save it. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where we were talking, how's that different now? Normally, if you were doing the West Highland Way, that would have been your support team. You'd have said, I'm struggling, protein bars are shite. How can you help me? And they would have said, well, we're going to try fish and chips. We're going to try the pork pies. We're going to try ice creams. And it would be up to them to solve. And you'd be like a robot. Do. With Lakeland, you had to think on your feet. And that's the difference between the West Highland Way and Lakeland for me, was it was you, just all you. There was no, I can't call Debbie and say, Debbie, come and save me. Come and give me something nice. Come and say good words to me.
One of the questions, good words is important too, but you can get that from your fellow runners as well.
More likely to get it. Debbie would most likely say, get your arse in gear.
But talking about nutrition and gear, it's a good idea to have at least a plan B, because plan A, as you just described, Marco, in training, what to dream.
Yep.
But on race day, it's like, no, can I take that? And when you can't take something, it's no going in.
Back. No,
it's not going in. So it's good to have a plan A, plan B, or a plan C. And if plan C is going to be C for Coca-Cola, let that rock and roll, because it does the job.
Even in a 24-hour race, my plan, and thankfully never happened, because there's nothing worse than shitting yourself Coca-Cola in a track, because everyone can see it, So I didn't want to be doing that. But yeah, it never happened in a 24-hour where I had that bad. But plan C in every race I've ever done is Coca-Cola, even if it's only for a few hours to get you going again.
Yeah, because you've got to get something in. I think you touched on that earlier, Marco, that when you're feeling at your bloody lowest, probably the key thing is get some energy in, because it will come back.
It will help. And it seems, I can't talk for everyone, but even it just seems to settle my stomach if there's an issue as well, And they say that with Coca-Cola, it's fine. Don't get me wrong, you burp all the time. It's not great in the bottles because they expand like this and they're squirting out, and you've got to keep on D. It doesn't matter how flat they say it is. Actually, when we were doing Western States just there, they didn't even bother flattening it. They would open the can of Coke and pour it in. You're like, really? Come on. So at least in Lakeland, it's flattish.
It was at Buttermere last year. I DNF'd last year. At Buttermere, the guy gave me some, half filled the flask with Coke and half filled it with what it was diluted. And that seemed to help. It wasn't then as sticky in your throat. You're still getting the energy, but you needed more, So
when I think that year I thought I was having a heart attack, but it wasn't. It was what was happening was the Coke had congealed to my t-shirt and it was stuck to my chest hair and was pulling on it. And it felt, I was like, what the hell is happening here? It's like a heart attack I'm having. But or it could have been because of the caffeine and the sugar I was drinking.
Yeah. There's lots going on, man. Lots going on.
Oh yeah.
What about kit? You get to Dale Main, you've got your bin bag that you can have to change your kit. Did you do, on the occasions that you've ran the lakes, did you do a full kit change at Dale Main, or what did you do?
So what I always did for training was I trained in specific shoes and socks for definite. The other gear, you kind of swapped it about. It's not as thingy, but you would train in, say, the S Labs that I'd spoken about earlier, and sometimes I'd wear thin hill walking socks, or sometimes it would be running socks. It depends. Then for the race, I would have a newer pair of the same shoes that I would maybe run, I don't know, 40, 50 miles in, just to get them broken in and make sure there was no iffy bits and the laces were right. With the S Labs, it was the triathlon race sort of thing, so it was pretty easy. I would have the exact same, now sometimes that was actually your training gear, but I'd have the exact same shoes and socks in the kit ready for me. Now, that doesn't work for everybody because some people want softer shoes, but for me, my feet didn't get sore. Probably, I've got sore feet all the time now, but that's probably because of that. But at that time, it was no problems. So I would have a complete change of everything in case I was soaking wet or something like that. In the times I did Lakeland, I never had to change my stuff. I went to Dale Main, and I would time myself. I would actually go in. I always had 2 watches normally, and I would just put the stopwatch on, and I always made sure it was under 10 minutes for the full thing. And that would involve, I always wanted a cup of coffee. That was my kind of, you've got here, have a cup of coffee. I would have the bag of clothes and the bag of shoes ready. So you would have your drop bag, and I would have it all bagged, and I would have a bag that had everything I needed for the second half, food-wise, nutrition. And all I did was I had a bag in my backpack that had all the wrappers and all the bits and pieces. That came out, other bag went in, sat down. I sometimes didn't even sit down because sometimes I find that hard to move. Had my cup of coffee, maybe some soup or something if they had it, maybe a couple of things, and then off. Even if I was just walking out, the whole point, there's no point in doing all those hills earlier on or the flat 30 seconds faster than everybody else to then spend half an hour in the checkpoint. So you can save a lot of time in that checkpoint by being really efficient. And I used to think to myself, what will I need? Now, don't get me wrong, I was lucky nothing went majorly wrong, but if it did go wrong, like a burst of shoe or something, I knew I had the exact same shoes waiting or that sort of thing. Never had to use that, but it was there, and it was just the exact same as what I was running in. And it was more, and I think I would also have maybe a spare waterproof or even a lighter waterproof, that still met whatever you had to do. Or if the weather was going to be nice, the lighter waterproof might be in the stuff that I had to start with. You would maybe move things like that about. I can't 100% remember. And if you thought there was going to be heavy rain in the second half, you could swap out a heavier waterproof, but you're not carrying it and stuff like that. So it was things like that you could do. But most of the time I just had like for like, and it was only, and I always had this bag that you weren't going to be going in and going, oh, what should I pick? You should take some of this and that. Yeah. It was literally pull the bag out, freezer bag, straight into your rucksack.
Yeah. So that decision's made before you even start the race. So you don't have to think about it during the race.
Don't think about anything in the race. The more you need to think about, your brain is like mush. You've just spent the whole night out. You've maybe tried to get some sleep on the Friday. Doesn't happen. You've spent a whole night out. Sometimes I didn't normally get that tired, but sometimes you could get a wee bit sleepy. So you don't want to be making any decisions. You don't know if you're in a race situation at that point. I could literally be coming in with someone else. So you want to be out of there first.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, sitting faffing with anything at all.
And it's a bit of a weird race start time, the 100, 6 p.m.,
Yeah, it's quite like a lot of European races, but Yeah, it was better than 1 a.m. I did
Yeah.
find it better. I used to get quite upset stomachs with the 1 a.m. start in the West Ham Way, and actually found out that it was to do with my nutrition on the day of the race. I used to think carb loading meant eat lots on the day before. Nah, eat less or eat the same as you would eat
Yeah.
before a long run.
But it's that cycle, isn't it? Your body's used to when it's getting
Sleeping.
fed.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that is a good point actually. I used to try and maybe not for Lakeland as much, but some of the 24-hour races and stuff I did, I tried to stick to meal times. Now, it didn't mean, you might be running around a track. Okay, there's dinner time. I'd have a walking break of 1 lap, but I'd have a bowl of, or it's normally a bloody tub of Rice Krispies, just something to look forward to, something that was not energy stuff. Because sometimes, although I was having lots of energy, I'd feel hungry.
Yeah.
But it was more kind of an empty feeling because you've not got solid food. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
So I quite like to have something like that. So less so for Lakeland. But maybe if I was doing Lakeland and I was out for the 40 hours, I would maybe think about having something more solid at your kind of meal times that you would do.
Yeah, because your body's not, I don't know if it's craving it, but it's used to it,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it's used to it.
What
about,
definitely for,
sorry, on you go.
I was going to say definitely for things I was doing recently, like spine or something, you do try and have a proper meal at least once a day on that at the checkpoint. The lasagnas at Alston.
Oh, and
I haven't got to the 8 portions yet, but I've managed 5 or 6.
Well, you know that Catherine Cowie done 11.
What? I was told 8 was the most.
It was, but Catherine went and done 11 at the summer spine this year.
They must have been giving her smaller portions. You'd have to roll her out of there. Come on. well done for that.
Yeah, brilliant. Also, there's plenty of food on the Lakeland course as well, because the checkpoints tend to be taken over by running clubs from the Lake District and surrounding area, and it's almost like a wee competition about we're going to do it bigger and better than you. So there's a bit of fun to be had as well, as you go through these places. So
you were definitely asking about what makes the Lakeland different, and that really makes it the people and the enthusiasm of everyone. You go into those, they want the best for you. They're not like, and I was spoiled some of the time. I remember getting to Howtown and literally they were waking up, so you get full attention. It was so good, and they'll really look after you. Even the time I was struggling when I did it recently, they wanted the best for me. They know what it feels like to get to those checkpoints because they've done it before. And honestly, fabulous. It's you can hear them coming into the before you get there, and you're like Or I remember the one just before. Is it not Wasdale? When you come after High Cop, you come out at Gatesgarth Pass up that way.
Mardale Head. Is that Mardale Head?
No. Gatesgarth.
Yeah, at the end of Hoswater, Mardale Head.
Gatesgarth.
Yeah.
You go up there and you come along and you actually see the checkpoint beforehand, and they see you and they're all cheering with the bells and everything, and then you hear their enthusiasm slightly tail because it's taking you a long time to get there, and you're like, come on guys, it's like another mile after you see me. I can't, and it's a bit dodgy the ground, but you hear so they're like, Jesus Christ, what's he doing? Come on, hurry up. We're going to get back to our bacon butties, because you can smell them as well. They're definitely bacon butties there.
And would it be your thinking to get in and out of checkpoints as quick as you could, given where you are? You're at the front end of the field, so you don't want to be wasting time.
Yeah, you do. It's difficult. I remember my first year doing it, and I'd said to you before we started recording, I think, where I was quite far ahead by Howtown or by just after that, and people were saying, oh, you're 45 minutes ahead. You're still looking back because you don't know what's happening. But I remember getting to Chapel Style, and I was pretty knackered then, and I remember thinking, just sit down for a minute. Your body when it's saying a wee sit down or just take a wee walk, and once you get into that, it's really difficult. And I remember sitting down on those really comfy couches, And I couldn't get. I was like, just another minute. And the guy's actually saying, right, come on, you. And I was sitting, and I probably didn't even spend 5 minutes in there, but it was a lot longer than I'd normal. So after that, I kind of thought, something, when I was trying to kind of beat my times and stuff, I was like, right, just never sit down unless you really need to. Keep standing because it's a lot easier to get going. Yeah, the way I always look at it is every minute you're stopped at a checkpoint, you've got to run faster to get that time back. So you're actually, I'm better off grabbing stuff and going out and walking out the checkpoint and just having a walking break and keep moving. One, it's easier to get going. Like I have terrible hamstrings and terrible hips where they tighten up really quickly if I stop, and especially sometimes sitting actually relieves it. So sometimes I need to do squats on a pole to get them to loosen. But even 10 years ago, I used to get it a lot. They tighten up. So I need to keep moving. If I stop, it's not much good. So yeah, I always found just keep going forward. Try to limit the checkpoints, because if you spend 5 minutes in chapel style, the next checkpoint, you'll see no problem spending 10 minutes. Then the next checkpoint, they're going to be kicking you out,
Yeah, and that what you've just mentioned about the squats is a great thing. I think I picked it up through Gillian McGill from you, which was like, just do 5 or 10 squats. If you're feeling stiff, just to do that. Just hold on to a bridge, hold on to somebody else, and do squats together.
When I did Glasgow, Edinburgh, I did that a couple of times, especially on flat running. When you're doing flat, I would get terrible tight hamstrings and stuff, and you just feel kind of, what's wrong with me? You don't really notice the tight. It's just like, oh, what's wrong with my legs? And then that's when I would do 5 of them, or have my support team hold on to me and actually help you. And it felt like a new man, honestly. You get back up and you're like, wow, I feel amazing. I don't know how long it lasts, but even 5 minutes of that lasting, it gives you another a little push. But yeah, the first year I did Lakeland, I remember Debbie had done it the year before, and I can't remember her exact time, but I said to her, how long did you, I'm asking her for every bit of information, because she used my information for this race, apart from my recce's, and I'm saying, what did you do here? What did you do here? Or which way did you go there? How did you do this? And I said to her, at Dale Main, how long did you stop? She went, I made an arse. I stopped for 25 minutes, and I was like, right, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to do that better and faster. And I said, right, 10 minutes. And I think I was out there in 9 minutes or something. So, and I do time it. I will go in, and a lot of time, I can't remember in that race if I had 2 watches, but I'd have, because the GPS would never last the entire time, I would just bring a normal watch I could use as a stopwatch. So if I ended up having to, because I knew the times between the checkpoints I had to hit more than the pace, so I could just stopwatch it. So I would stopwatch 10 minutes and just say, right, 10 minutes, get out. And because 10 minutes to me and you just now is 10 minutes. 10 minutes when you've ran 50 miles and you're at Dale Main and you're feeling sorry for yourself, 10 minutes is like 1 minute. You end up spending 30 minutes and you're like, that was 10. Well, it wasn't 10 minutes. That was, so that's why I time it, because you want to, you can't keep, unless you get someone else to time it for you. I always just timed it myself.
It's about being efficient, isn't it? And because all that, as you say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doing that every single checkpoint, even doing it at the checkpoints for 5 minutes, that's an hour over the course of a race. 5 minutes at every checkpoint.
How much faster do you need to run to catch that hour up? So 100 miles, 105 miles, that's what, 30 seconds per mile. You can take slower if you can efficiently do those checkpoints. 30 seconds per mile over the whole entire distance might not seem like much, but it's a massive amount when you're figuring it out. If you can be efficient in checkpoints.
Yeah, definitely. Can you, Marco, recall choice of 2, a specific high or low from any of your Lakeland experiences?
I can do 2. I can do both if I talk really quick. Plus,
you
want a 2-hour podcast, don't you? So a low might was Paul Tierney beat me on the second time I did it. Now, it's not a low. Paul Tierney is a fantastic guy. I love Paul Tierney. Yeah, I haven't spoken to him in years, but yeah, he's a fantastic guy. That wasn't the low. But what was the low was I, who was I racing? Oh, his name's escaped me. Oh, that's terrible. James Elson. So James Elson was in front of me for the entire race up until Dale Main. And his nutrition, I always remember his nutrition. His nutrition was goo gels. I think he had 40 goo gels. So I'm behind him thinking, this is going to explode at some point. So you need to be ready for this explosion of goo gels, wherever it's going to come. Because to me, personally, I couldn't run an 100-mile race on goo gels. Goo gels are nice, but a bit too much sweetness, and there's going to come a crash somewhere. So I can see James's torch, and I'm friends with James as well. But you're in race mode, we're racing each other. He's racing me just as much as I'm racing him. Can see his torch for miles all the way. He'd had a couple of wee falls, I remember, and he'd had a bit of an issue with his knee or something. But I got to Dale Main, and he was pulling out, or he was too, and I overtook him there, and I was like, oh, I'm going to win this 2 times in a row, because I couldn't think of anyone behind me at all that was going to catch me. And I think the year before, Paul Tierney had pulled out, and I thought he'd pulled out this one as well. You don't really know where people are. I got to Howtown feeling amazing. I was like, yes, here we go, here we go. Got up the hill at Howtown, and I literally bonked. I just totally bonked. Like the whole world was spinning. And I was like, oh my God, Jesus, what's happening? And I sat down, and I thought, I'm okay. I've got plenty of time. Sat down, and there's Paul Tierney coming up the hill. And I couldn't even get up. I couldn't even stand up to try and race him. And he went past me, and honestly, I've never seen someone look. He looked like he'd just come out his house. He was totally in control, totally fine. And here's me, bonking to bits. And he was like, oh, Mark, are you okay, Marco? And I'm like, yeah, just a bit of a bonk. And he went, I've got some Mars. He stopped. Now this is him going into first place, and he stopped. He said, can I help you? Can I, because we're all friends in the end, and you don't want. And I must have just looked in a bad way, and he looked amazing, strong. And I just thought, I'm beat. And that was a low point. And especially in that second year, because we talked about how we'd done all the training with flat. That was the year I did all the hill training and felt really strong in hills. Yet it didn't work for me there. And I was slower because I started running the hills and felt knackered earlier than I was before. I used too much energy when I should have been walking and refueling on the hills, which is what I would normally do. And he looked amazingly strong. And by the time we got to Kentmere, he was like 35 minutes ahead of me or something. He'd take, and I couldn't, and that was me getting it back again and running. And that was quite a low point for him, because I really specifically trained for Lakeland 100 that year rather than training for other races. And it just showed maybe sometimes you put too much into one race. It's maybe better to spread it out a little bit. For me, anyway.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. A very personal story.
Yeah.
Give us a high. Give us a high, Marco.
Oh, the high. The high was the one with the Coke for Lakeland. So we've kind of touched on it already, whereas the race was like, I'd remembered the race before where I'd gone, geez, that was a nightmare. So back to flat training again, feeling brilliant. And then the food issue with the protein sort of bars hit me, having loads of issues. I just went back loads of positions. I remember Beth Pascal as well overtaking me, and then I was overtaking her, and we were back and forward. Had quite a good race. I managed to get back into third position in the last checkpoint before Coniston, and the guy at the checkpoint said, "Oh, second place is struggling in front of you, but he's about 10-15 minutes in front. But I think you can maybe catch him." And I just went, right, 2.5 liters of Coke. And I had 2 gels straight away, and I managed. Oh man, I felt so good. It was so funny. It worked out so perfect. I was walking up because it's quite a steep bit out there. Walked along a bit, kind of look. I could see him in front of me, and I went, if I was him, I would look round just about. Right, start running. And he looked round exactly when I thought he would, and he saw me running, and you could see him just go, oh, and he started to, and he just went, oh. because he thought I'd ran up the whole hill. It was so good. And I just kept, I saw he would look away and I started to walk. And I'd think he's about to turn round again, start running again. So every time he looked round, I was running. And I thought, oh, this couldn't work out better. So when I got to him, I'm like, I'm really sorry I'm overtaking you because you've been in second since the start. Really, really apologise. But inside, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And yeah, I went past him and I felt amazing. And then coming down that hill, everybody thought he was going to come in second. So even Mark Laithwaite and everyone were like, oh, how is it you? Do you know? And the crowd was quite big coming through Coniston then. You know, everyone comes out in the pub. It was just a brilliant finish because everybody's like, God, it's Marco. No one thought I was going to take him. And coming in, even Debbie was at the end and they're all like, how'd that happen? So it just felt amazing, even though it was a second place, but it was just how badly that race had started off. And there were so many times I'd thought, oh, this is going to be like 10th or 15th position and you've done your podium before. And even when I got into third, I went, well, that's pretty good. First year first, second year second, third year third. Well, never do it again and you'll be fine. But I got 2 seconds. I definitely need to go back and get that third. That's never going to happen. Maybe third V50. I could go for that.
There you go. But brilliant. It just shows you as well that fire in your belly when that checkpoint person had said, oh, you can get them. You know?
Yeah, and honestly, it was like it might have helped having 2 half liters of Coke and 2 gels can help as well. But yeah, I came out of there and I just absolutely powered out of that checkpoint. I remember like sweats dripping, they're like, and then just seeing them, and again that whole competitive kind of, competitiveness came in, and you're trying to work out when he was going to look round and thinking, I'd look round right now, yeah, run. It's like, it just felt like.
It's almost like playing that game of cat and mouse, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, which is what it is. It's what it is.
It definitely was. And I feel better when I think he would have done the same to me, and I would totally accept it. So I hope that people don't feel arsehole or something. I'm not trying to be an arsehole about it. I did enjoy that competitiveness. And when I overtook him, he did try to stay with me, but he was done in and I could feel the pain. He's like, no, I don't want to let go of this. I don't want to let go of this. And then the whole realization that he just didn't have the energy left. And because I'd shown that I'd looked like I was running, and you try not show that pain. The pain's there for me as well. You go past and you have to, every single part is aching, saying, just walk. And you're like, I can't. If I walk, it gives him another breath. He can see me behind me. Got to keep running, even if it's just slowing the pace a bit. Just look like you're running. Yeah, I might be running at the same speed I'm walking, but look like you're running, because the minute I start walking, he will pull.
Yeah, it's up there, isn't it?
Yeah, the energy saps from you and it goes into him. And that's how I was looking at it. So you keep going. Everything's pain. The minute I go around a hill or down a wee bit, right, he can't see me. Walk, but he's coming over. Right, run again. It's that's the bit I miss. I miss that part of Ultra.
I can tell. For me, you can hear it in your voice that you've loved that.
I loved it. And don't get me wrong, there's all the times people did it to me. I've forgotten them all, so I can't tell you them. But the people did it back to me, so it's fun. Yeah.
It's part of the race at that, especially at that sharp end. But you know what? Regardless of where you are in the Lakeland 50, Lakeland 100 field, you can have your own wee personal battle to move you on and to motivate you towards the end.
I did your half marathon recently, and I'm going from, I want to get first, second, and third, but maybe now I'm looking at, V50. Where's the V50 person, or V45 when I did the October Marathon half. So I'm always looking, where can I, right, there's all those youngsters, I'm not keeping up with them. I'll try, but they spit me out at the end halfway around. And then I'm like, right, where's the V45 guys? I'm now V50. So I'm like, right, try and get that. And that's what Debbie did. She's in Western States, and the race goes from, I want to compete and get first, second, third to, where's the V50 people? And she came second V50. It doesn't matter where you are in the race. There is those mini battles. There could be, there's the pal I run with all the time. There's someone else from my club. When I first started running, I didn't compete at half marathons. I was competing against other people from Garscoob, from my running club.
Yeah.
There's a guy with long hair. I reckon, when I first joined the club, there was a guy with long hair and a ponytail, Murray. I used to compete with, and every time I did a 10K, I got that little bit closer to him, until I overtook him one time, and I was like, yes, I've done it. And that was my battle every time I did it. And I feel, I've kind of said to you, I'm less competitive. Am I? I just have a different competitive now.
Yeah.
It's different. It's normally, can I beat Debbie? Normally I lose that every time, but I'm trying.
I can hear that the fire still burns. The fire still burns, Marco, and I love it. What advice would you give to somebody attempting the Lakeland 50 or 100 for the first time in 2 weeks?
Look at that. There's Debbie again. She'll be like, why are you ignoring me? I think we've covered quite a lot of it. Like, you need to still be able to run those runnable parts. Those parts of the course that are runnable. There's no use giving it all in the mountainous sections to then walk the flat sections, which are very runnable. There's massive amounts that's runnable. And I just found, even if you're not even running that fast, just getting to the running way, I found was probably the best advice for Lakeland 100 I ever received. And I received that from Richie, where he actually said to me, you're a fast flat runner, so you should concentrate on that. Now, maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, but to me, if you burst yourself in that first third, the first third is very hilly, then the next 2/3 of that race is going to be a disaster. But if you keep a little bit in the tank, that whole first third, then that flat section, which is I do in the dark, and most people will be doing in the dark, I would think, you can just get into that way of just constantly turning over, and the miles will just fall off as you tick them off. And before you know it, you'll be at Dale Main, the sun's come up, and that'll give you another burst anyway for that final third. So I just think that try and have something in the tank for that whole Keswick part onwards.
Yeah. And then when you get to Dale Main, you're on the road home, aren't you?
Hey, I always say that for everything, even in a training run. You've got halfway, 4 miles. Yeah, only 4 miles left. Going, that's the limit of I'm doing now.
Brilliant. One final question, a musical one. I know you like your music. If you could sum up the Lakeland weekend,
you missed about 10 questions.
We've covered most of them.
Covered them, right?
If you could sum up the Lakeland weekend in one song, what would it be, Marco?
Oh, it's got to be right. I'm going to give you 2 choices here, right? For me, there's one personal.
They're both going.
Yeah. So you've got Bloody Nessun Dorma, right? Now,
aye.
Now that's an easy get out, but the only reason is every time I hear that song, I can still I literally spend the entire first half of that race singing that song. I am totally over that song, right? I've now got it in my head already, and I'm singing it. Honestly, it reminds me of the first. It takes me. You got that song, and it just goes over and over. Because I like I've said, I will carry AirPods with me, or it wouldn't have been AirPods, then it'd been earphones with me in a race, and I will never use them unless I'm fucked and I need to get something to get me going again. And so I'm running in that race going, put your headphones on to get rid of that bloody song, because all I can hear is that song. It's going over and over and over and over again. But I won't do it, because I always see it as what I said before, is if I see someone doing that, I'm thinking to myself, they're gubbed, I can overtake them. That's fine. So I'm like, don't put your headphones on, but I know it'll get rid of that bloody song. So I don't. So yeah, that is that song. And I do you know what? If I do it again, I might wear my earphones at the start of the race, so I don't hear the song, and then take them off. Do you know? Joking aside, it is a brilliant. At least they're not singing the American national anthem, which is one I've got to listen to nowadays when we do Western States and Badwater. They totally fuck that up every time they sing it. So at least I'm not having to listen to that. it's good to have a song for a race. Every time I hear that song now, I think of Lakeland 100, especially the first half of the race. For me, a song, a band, I don't really listen to this band, but it reminds me of the race because I remember doing a training block for this race. And actually, I remember listening to this album on the way down, probably the 2015 one. So it was Nothing But Thieves, Trip Switch. So I don't really listen to them as much now, but that reminds me of Lakeland 100 personally. That's a personal song, a personal album that I listened to quite a lot, training and going down to it. It was my kind of relaxing. And I was trying to think of something that wasn't Nirvana or grunge, because that's what I think I gave you last time. So
that's cool. But listen, let's go with Nothing But Thieves for adding on at the end of this audio one, rather than Nessun Dorma.
Trip Switch. Yeah, don't put that, because they'll be singing it. They'll be singing it forever. Oh my God.
Brilliant.
Maybe we just mention it. They've now got it.
They've got it now anyway.
Well, they got my heart. I wasn't going to, I might be sort of Italian, but I'm not going to try singing opera. But if you want to know what it means let no one sleep. I had to look it up.
There you go. We're giving people the lessons as well, life lessons too. Let no one sleep. Brilliant. Yeah. And that's what happens. So I think we, Marco, both of us can wish everybody the very best.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. It's a fantastic race. And, just even talking about it, I'm thinking, could I go back? I would like to. I'd like to do the West Ham Way as well, but I'm always fear because I'm not ever going to get the times that I did before. And did I tell you I went back to Lakeland in 2019 or something? I can't remember. 2020 maybe. I can't remember. And it was a nightmare because I just wanted to go and run it. And everyone kept overtaking me, which was fine. I was happy with that. But they were like this. Didn't you win this race one year? And I was like, yeah. And then, you remember I was telling you about how you sook that soul out of someone when you're running past them? Yeah, my soul was soaked out about 40 times in that race. And I'm happy where I am now. But oh my God, that hurt. So if I do it next time, I'm going to have to go and make up. But actually, now we're so far away from when I did it, no one remembers me, so it's great. I can maybe go back.
You could always get a false moustache or something.
Could
shave your
head. One. Now I'm 50.
Yeah, you could do that. Right, listen, I'm going to go and let you speak to Debbie on the phone.
She thinks I've died.
But listen, we said we speak for half an hour or an hour.
Sorry.
It was never going to be that. It was never going to be that. But no, we're talking brilliantly, passionately about the Lakeland 50, Lakeland 100, the Lakeland Festival, if you want to call it that. It is an amazing weekend. So everybody that's going, have an absolutely awesome time. Stay for the celebration, stay for the party on the Sunday as well. That's absolutely brilliant in the marquee, the prize giving part. It's really, really good. And hopefully one day, Marco, we'll see you back down there.
Oh man, you've given me. I can't do it next year. I've entered the summer spine, and I know it's a month between it, but I remember the last time I did the spine. No, it's not going to be a recovery in a month.
No, but listen, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. So
I get plenty of time. I'm retired soon. I can just do ultras again. Fun times.
Well, listen, thank you so much for giving up your time this evening.
Thank you.
And for giving folk a wee taster, a wee teaser for what's about to happen in the lakes in a couple of weeks' time. Really appreciate your time, Marco. Thank you.
Go and enjoy it, everyone. It's a lovely race. Thank you, everyone. Bye.